I would like to welcome excuse me. I would like to welcome you all to this, our first meeting of the new council. Until further notice, all meetings conducted by the Strathbogie Shire Council will be held virtual and live streamed on our website at www.strathbogie.gov.au, in accordance with the Strathbogie Shire governance rules and the ministerial good practice guidelines MGPG-1 for virtual meetings. This ensures we are meeting the Victorian Government's social distancing requirements to slow the spread of coronavirus, COVID-19, and help keep our communities safe. We encourage all community members to watch the meeting online, given we have had to close the public gallery until further notice following legal advice around how to comply with the COVID-19 social distancing rules. If we have technical difficulties during today's meeting, which means we are unable to broadcast to the public, we'll adjourn the meeting for 15 minutes. If the issue is not resolved after this time, but we maintain a quorum of councillors under our local government law, we will continue the meeting. If we cannot maintain a quorum, I'll have to close the meeting and we'll call another council meeting to consider the unfinished business of the agenda. Thank you for joining us today and good luck to the new council for the next 4 years. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners, landowners. I would like to thank them on which we are meeting and pay respects to their elders, past and present. Apologies, CEO. No apologies tonight. Disclosures of conflict of interest, councillors.
Through you, Mayor, I have a conflict of interest on agenda item 9.17, the Australia Day Awards.
Thank you, Councillor Corrigan.
Through you, Mayor, I have a conflict of interest with the with item 9.18, the COVID Response Community Grant Program.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. For confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, Councillor, there's 2 sets of minutes to required confirmation. Would someone like to move that those minutes be confirmed? Councillor, Deputy Mayor Lykos, thank you very much.
I move that. Thank you, Mayor.
And seconder,
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. All those anyone like to have any discussion? If not, all those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Petitions. CEO, no petitions tonight. Reports of the Mayor or councillors and delegates. Any councillor would like to have a report?
Through you, Mayor, I would like to report on my attendance at the Aboriginal Action Group AGM on Wednesday, December the 9th. I was invited down there by the outgoing President, Jeff Moran, who retired from the position of President after 5 years of dedicated service to the community down there, and I'd like to express our thanks to all his efforts and hard work over a long period of time and the achievements that he's put in place for the local community there. And I'd also like to announce that the new President is Jen Arnold for the Aboriginal Action Group, who was a candidate in the election down there recently. The Secretary will be John Hyland, who will continue in the role from last year, and the Treasurer is Grace Kenworthy. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor like to speak? All right, I've got a little bit of reading here if you like. Thank you, councillors. It's a significant event for the 7 councillors in this room tonight. For 6 of us, it's our first council meeting representing Strathbogie Shire. It's also the first time we've seen a female majority leading Shire of Strathbogie. And congratulations to all of you for being elected. It's an exciting time for our Shire. We are a council committed to driving better community engagement and to ensuring our community is involved in the decisions that affect them. My focus is all about community and working together to achieve greater things. I truly believe if we're not delivering what our community wants, we're not doing it well enough. I ask all members of our community to approach this new council with optimism and support. We will be calling on you all to get involved and help us make better decisions. In the new year, we'll start with councillors regularly coming to your township to share information and gather your feedback. We are increasing face-to-face engagement opportunities, but at the same time, we know this can't be done. The only way to seek your feedback. I do apologise. I urge you to watch this space as we create easier ways to stay online. While on the topic of engagement opportunity, council officers, in conjunction with the applicant for a planning permit to establish a caravan and camping tourism park in Kerwins Bridge, will hold a drop-in day tomorrow at 10 a.m. This is an opportunity for interested people to learn about the proposal. If there's significant interest, we'll host more of these sessions. Of course, all the documents are public available on our website. For me, during my term as Mayor, I advocate for the community will all be a priority. Last week, I presented to the Joint Standing Committee inquiry into the National Band Network, NBN. I took the opportunity to make it very clear that more work needs to be done in our region. If something is not done well, we will be left behind in a digital race and miss out on the economic development opportunities. This is not an option we can accept as a community and a shire. I finally want to congratulate the community, our cinema volunteers, council officers who have worked tirelessly putting together proposals and submitting application to upgrade the interior of our cinema. We recently received $130,000 Victorian Government budget for the overhaul that will include replacing the second-hand chairs, polishing the floorboards, repainting and cleaning the drapes. What a fantastic example of what we can achieve when we get together. So, thank you. All right, number 8 is public question time. Do we have any questions from our community? Thank you, CEO.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. We have 2 questions that were lodged on Wednesday, 14th of October 2020. However, we were unable to answer those questions due to public question time being suspended for that meeting because it was election caretaker mode. So the 2 questions, firstly from Jackie Anton, and I will go through them one at a time. So we're splitting her first question into 2 parts. Her question: when did advertising planning applications received change from the planning meeting agenda list to the Shire website? A permit application was advertised at 40 River Street, Nagambie on September 22nd with a closing date of the 12th of October, 8 days prior to our planning meeting. And the response is, this is the closing date for submissions. A full assessment was still required and a planning report to be written. It is likely at the conclusion of advertising that a decision will be made immediately due to the process involved in assessing an application. An objection can be made up until a decision is made. However, advertising period is required to determine how a permit is decided upon, i.e. before council or under delegation. In general terms, for all applications, should an objection be received, the application is heard before council. Additionally, a recommendation is for refusal of an application, it is also heard before council. Should no objections be received for planning applications, officers are able to issue an under delegation. The second one is the application is on permits currently advertised on the Shire website? What criteria is used for advertising on the website, and has this been explained to Shire residents before? And the response to this question is advertising of applications on council website has just occurred, River Steep being the first application to be notified via this means. As part of notifying affected landowners of an application, we provide this website link for them to review the documents in more detail. This forms part of our planning department's looking to continually improve our processes by listening to our community and are always looking at ways to communicate better. We're happy to hear feedback. And then the second question, in October 2019, Ngambie Waterways Committee and Council contracted Wayne Hill from Life on Water to undertake a review of speed limits and zoning on Lake Ngambie and the Goulburn River. This report was due in September 2020. How much did the Shire pay for this review, and when and where will this report be available? And the response provided. Council advertised expressions of interest with a closing date on the 24th of September 2019 to undertake a review of speed limits and zoning on the waterways. A contract was awarded for $34,000 and $34,036, of which $25,000 was provided by state government. As part of the process, community feedback was obtained and an issues paper and risk document prepared, which has been reviewed by the Waterways Committee. This process has not been finalised as there is a need for the new council to endorse a paper, which is expected early in the new year. After that council will need to formally request Marine Safety Victoria to make rule changes as identified in the document. There will then be broad community consultation and a final draft of rules, zoning and speed limits endorsed and gazetted. After that, council will need to upgrade signage and buoys, print maps and commence education and compliance. This will be completed by the summer of 2021-22. And that's the conclusion of the questions.
Thank you, CEO. All right, 9, which is Officers' Report, page 1, 9.1, Planning Application Number 2020-094, Use and Development of Land for a Dwelling at 254 Wood Road, Euroa. Director Tingay, would you like to make a report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. So a short summary is that Council received an application for the use and development of land for a dwelling at 254 Wood Road, Euroa. The application was advertised and there were no objections received. This application is being heard before Council due to the proposal being a dwelling on a lot less than the as of right size, 80 hectares, in the farming zone. The application has not been assessed within the 60-day statutory timeframe due to the council elections. Council must comply with special arrangements in the lead up to the elections, and therefore caretaker period was in place. The proposal meets the objectives of the planning policy framework, local planning policy framework and the farming zone. It is recommended that council resolve to grant a permit in accordance with the officer's recommendations. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Someone like to move that this motion be accepted, please? Councillor Murray, thank you. Someone like to second it? Councillor Horrigan. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak? No. Councillor Horrigan. Any other councillors like to speak? If not, all those in favour, against, declare it carried. Thank you. Page 27, planning application received and planning application determined, 1 October to 30 November 2020. Director Tingay, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. So as presented in the council agenda, there are a list of planning applications received and planning applications determined for the period of 1 October to 30 November 2020. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Someone like to move this report be received and noted? Move Councillor Binks, seconded Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak? Councillor Haysbert. All those in favour? Against? Declare carried. Thank you. Okay, next one's on page 37, 9.3, tender for contract number 1920-39, design and construction of the Gambia Recreational Reserve, netball courts. Director Tingo, would you like to speak? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of Council's approved budget, the existing netball court facilities at the Ngambia Recreation Reserve are to be replaced and upgraded in line with community expectation, events demands and also current standards. Tender documentation was prepared for the design and construction of new netball courts and associated works. Council went to public tender for the contract 19-20-39, design and construct of NRR netball courts on 28 August 2020. At tender closing 23 September 2020, 4 tenders were received. The tender submissions were evaluated by council officers with One Turf Proprietary Limited as the preferred tenderer. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Someone like to move by Reg, seconded by Mel. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I apologise there, Councillor. Councillor Dickinson and Deputy Mayor Lycos. Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak? Deputy Mayor? All right, all those in favour? All those against? Declare it carried. Thank you. We have to get away from this informal stuff to actually be very formal in a meeting like this. Thank you. Page 43, tender evaluation for contract number 2021-45, construction of the Ngambia Active Space Hub. Director Tingo, would you like to speak? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. So this executive summary is that there is provision for a purpose-designed Ngambia Executive Space Hub as part of Council's Capital Works program for the 2020-21 financial year. The project is proposed at 26 Flinton Street, Ngambia, in response to community consultation conducted in recent years across groups in the Shires over Council's play and recreation strategy. The objective of the facility is to offer non-traditional sporting activities, which include skateboarding, basketball and table tennis, and also developing that particular sector and sporting arena to meet this particular goal. Through public advertisement in local and national newspapers, Council invited tenders for works to be undertaken as part of contract 20-20-45. Following the tender process for the works, they have now been evaluated by council officers, and having considered those results, it is recommended that council award the lump sum contract to Independent Concrete Constructions for a total amount of $566,933 plus GST. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Someone like to move that this move, Deputy Mayor Lycos? Thank you. Someone like to second it? Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Lycos, would you like to speak on this issue?
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to say I'd like to acknowledge the work that went into the applications for the grants for this, and I think it's a wonderful thing for the Ngambia. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak? Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Any other councillor like to speak on this? Councillor, Haysbert.
Firstly, I think it's a great initiative that this has been tendered for in the Ngambia. I'd just like to acknowledge that in the report and in the previous report that we were presented with, perhaps some more information needs to be put under the sustainability considerations, environmental and amenity as sections within the report. Perhaps just because concrete does emit carbon for a very long time, the council could look at putting the implications of carbon secretion in the report, and perhaps looking at ways in the future to offset carbon emissions through projects like this. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillor? Yes,
Yeah,
councillor
if I could
Dickinson.
just
Yes.
add to that I would suggest to help offset those carbon emissions that trees be planted around the boundary lines of the entire complex.
Thank you, councillor.
And I think that could be a good project for the youth who are going to be using that facility.
Yeah, good suggestion. Thank you. Any other councillor like to make comment? If not, all those in favour of the motion? All those against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Page 50, 9.5, tender for contract number 20-21-54, 2020 to 21 road seal program. Director Tingay.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of Council's approved budget, selected municipal roads require resealing to improve safety, increase life of roads, lowering ongoing costs and decrease maintenance. Through a public advertisement was made in local and state newspapers, and council invited tenders for the work under contract 20-21-54 Roads Reseal Program 2020-2021. 5 tenderers submitted tenders for the work. These tenders have been assessed and evaluated by council officers, and a summary of the results is shown below, and also the recommendation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Council would like to move the recommendation as printed on page 50. Councillor Murray, seconded. Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak on the motion?
No, thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Hayes-Burke. All right, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Page 57. Tender for contract number 20-21-55, the 2020-21 Roads Rehabilitation Program. Director Tingay.
Thank you, Mayor. Roads Rehabilitation Program is part of Council's Capital Works Program for the financial year 2020-21. The project is required to maintain council road assets to ensure that Strathbogie Shire region has safe and high-quality local roads. Through public advertisement in local and national papers, council invited tenders for the work under contract number 20-20-55. 4 tenderers submitted tenders for the works. These tenders have been assessed and evaluated by council officers, and a summary of the results are shown in the attachment to this agenda. Having considered those results, the recommendation is listed for council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, someone like to move the motion? Thanks that we accept this. Councillor Binks and seconded by Deputy Mayor Icos. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak on this issue?
Our roads are important, and it's great that we're looking after them.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Icos?
I concur.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? If not, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Right, page 63, 9.7, tender for contract number 20-21-17, provision of town planning and urban design services, panel of suppliers. Director Tingay.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has conducted a competitive process to create what is known as a panel of suppliers agreement for town planning and urban design services for an initial 3 years, commencing on the 15th of January 2021, with 2 extension options of 1 year each. A panel of suppliers arrangements creates a more efficient and competitive process where goods and services under the value of $50,000 need to be procured. Officers will be required to seek quotes from a minimum of 3 panel of supplier members through a further competitive process as projects arise. At the closure of the advertising period, 27 submissions were considered by the panel. They have now been evaluated and the recommendation is before council tonight.
Thank you, Director. All right, councillors, someone like to move this recommendation? Councillor Murray, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Binks. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak?
I'd just like to support the motion by saying that it's for projects under the value of 50,000, and it will add to the efficiency of our ability to find suppliers and make for a much more efficient and effective process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Binks? Okay. Any other councillor would like to speak on this issue? If not, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you very much. Page 71. Tender document. Tender for contract number 20-21-13, IT Consultancy Services Panel of Suppliers. Director Ralph.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As with the previous item, from time to time we need to engage specific expertise to help us out, and in this case with information technology. We've called tenders, vetted suppliers and recommending a panel be appointed, and as was previously stated, when we have a job to be done, we'll take a series of quotes from the people on that panel. They've given us their maximum rates, so we're not exposed in cost terms. So once again, it's a pretty efficient way of obtaining service.
Thank you, Director. Someone like to move this motion? Moving Deputy Mayor Lykos, seconded. Councillor Horrigan. Councillor Lykos would like to speak on this issue? Councillor Horrigan? Okay. Well, any other councillor like to speak? If not, all those in favour?
Sorry, can I just ask a question?
Yes, mate.
Is that for 3 years, this panel? Is that set up for 3 years?
Councillor, sorry, Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. No other questions? All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Page 79, 9.9, Council Policy Review of the Procurement Policy. Director Ralph, would you like to speak?
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. So the procurement policy governs how we acquire anything from paper clips to capital works to graders, and it has a series of procedures that we need to follow to ensure that we have best value and satisfy procurement and probity obligations. Council is required to review the policy every 12 months, so that's why it's here for your consideration. And in the report, there are some changes identified from the previous document. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Hayes-Burke.
Mayor, I'd like to table an alternate motion. The motion is that council defer the consideration of the draft procurement policy to allow officers to analyse options to increase local content provisions as part of council's COVID-19 Reset, Reboot and Revitalise program, and that a report be prepared for the 19 January 2021 council meeting with an amended procurement policy to strengthen local content provisions. Thank you.
So move to Councillor Hayes-Burke. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Lykos. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak on this one, please?
This has come about after discussions with my fellow councillors. We hope to further support local suppliers in this time after we come out of the pandemic. And I think it'll also provide an opportunity to introduce improved environmental sustainability outcomes into our procurement policy. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lykos. Deputy Mayor, sorry. Okay. Any other councillor like to speak on this? Thank you, Councillor Horrigan.
Through you, Mayor, I just I think this is a great motion to add, and I think it's showing that we're supporting local businesses and our community, and I think this will be a great add to the procurement policy.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments by councillors? Councillor Murray.
Through you, Mayor, I'd just like to also support this motion. I think that whilst the Shire does have a weighting which favours local suppliers, I think this particular period of time when we're coming out of COVID, there needs to be some extra consideration given to businesses to help them in their recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Any other comments? If not, all those in favour of the motion being put forward? Those against? Declare carried. Thank you. Page 93, 9.10, the continuation of the Castle Creek Flood Mitigation Project. Director Tingay.
Thank you, Mayor. In February 2019, Council was successful in obtaining grant funding for the Castle Creek Flood Mitigation Project. The activities undertaken within this project are Castle Creek Survey for monitoring the stream profile, including levee bank, which has been completed, Floodplain Management Plan, which is due in December 2020, and House Protection Levy under tender evaluations CN 20-21-14. The preferred tenders price is in the order of $74,000 above the current remaining budget for the works. The recommendation is before Council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, Council like to move this recommendation? Councillor Horrigan. Moved by Councillor Horrigan, seconded by Councillor Murray. Councillor Horrigan, would you like to speak? Councillor Murray, would you like to speak?
Can I just say that I think this the Castle Creek Flood Mitigation Project needs to be finalised, and I think this gives us an opportunity to actually bring that to a close and to support the communities of Euroa in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Any other councillor would like to speak? If not, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Page 99, 9.11, 2017 to 21 Shire of Strathbogie Council Plan, 2020 review, first quarter report, 1 July to 30 September 2020. CEO Solomon.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Quarterly reports. Thank you. Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Quarterly reports are required to be prepared and presented to councillors by officers, which provide an update not only to council but, of course, our community on the status of the key strategies of the 2017-2021 council plan following its annual review in 2020. So it is our pleasure and before you to present the first quarter report as the Mayor determined from the 1st of July to the 30th of September 2020 for Council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. So, councillors, would some councillor like to move this recommendation, which is before us at the moment? Thank you. Councillor Horrigan, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Binks. Councillor Horrigan, would you like to speak on this?
Through you, Mayor, I note that this is going through, but I'd like to make comment that council plans in the future, I'm hoping to have different target dates. So I do realise that this all has a 30th of June 2021, and hopefully moving forward in the next 4 years, we can have more specific dates for our community, just to show a bit more accountability.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Binks.
Yeah, I just concur with Councillor Horrigan's motion or discussion on that issue, and looking forward to creating our new budget, which has timely deadlines with it, and yeah, that we can continue to do that.
Thank you,
start doing that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other councillor like to say something? If not, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Page 130, 9.12, financial report to 30 September 2020. Director Ralph, would you like to speak on this, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council's required to produce at least quarterly financial reports, and the report to the end of September is provided for you. Compared to the previous council reports, we have made some changes to hopefully provide more information, and you'll notice on page 132 there's a new table which identifies the expenditure and income by the various programs that we have within the budget. Obviously below that we have a lot more detail, but that just gives you a snapshot of where we're spending money and what the incomes are. Following that, we have the comprehensive income statement, which you'll note shows a surplus of 17.6 million at the moment. Now that is because we recognise all of our rate revenue early in the year, and then we collect the cash as we go through as people pay their rates. So that surplus will come back to what we predicted in the budget or close there too. So it does give a slightly inflated picture, but that's largely related to timing. Also, balance sheet's quite healthy because we have recognised, as I said, the rate revenue up front, but also we have cash holdings because of capital works, which are in the process of being delivered. I think you saw tonight we have awarded some tenders for capital works, and we're also ramping up with a number of others. So I think you'll find that the capital performance will accelerate in the coming months. Another thing we've included in there is a series of graphs just to try and give you a bit of a feel for what we're doing. We will provide more detail on the capital works program in the next report that you get. Interesting graph on page 139. If you look at the rate debtors, which is the amount outstanding from ratepayers at the end of each month, and you'll notice that August and September, despite the pandemic, the debtors level or the amount of outstanding rates is pretty much the same as it has been in previous years. So I think that's a trend that a number of councils have found, and we might have expected the debtors to increase. It hasn't done that, so that's been pretty good from a cash point of view. So, yeah, it's a bit of a work in progress. So we'll continue to fine-tune the report and provide you with different information, hopefully being more transparent. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
So just if I may, Director, is that very pertinent that our community is looking after our Shire by paying their rates?
Absolutely. I think it's a terrific effort from the community to make payments in what's been a pretty difficult period.
Thank you, Director. Okay, councillors, would someone like to move this motion, please?
Through you, Mayor, could I just ask a question of the Director and just ask him if COVID and the recent pandemic has also affected the expenditure side of the council budget?
Through you, Mr Mayor, a lot of what we've had to do has been accommodated within our existing budget, but for specific things to do with COVID, like it might be PPE or sanitizer and things like that, I think we're probably under $20,000. But the majority of the expense has been covered within the existing budget. It's not major.
Okay. Thank you, Director. Someone like to move this recommendation? Move Deputy Mayor Lykos, seconded by Councillor Haysbert. Councillor Lykos, Deputy Mayor, Lykos, would you like to speak? No, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Haysbert? No. All right, any other councillor would like to ask questions or make a statement? If not, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Page 140. 9.13 Emergency Management Planning Reforms. Director Rolfe, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is part of our state reform process in emergency management arrangements, which starts with a state emergency plan, then a regional emergency plan, and now down to the municipal plans. Part of that is we need to establish a new emergency management planning committee and appoint MIMOs, as they're called, Municipal Emergency Management Officers, which replaces the old MIROs, which are Municipal Emergency Resource Officers, and also to formalise the Municipal Recovery Manager role. And different to the previous committee, whilst council has a role, it's not actually a committee of council. It reports to the Hume Regional Emergency Management Planning Committee. So this report authorises the CEO to facilitate formation of the new committee. It does require one or more community representatives to be appointed to the committee, which could be community members, could be councillors, or could be a combination. So that's something we'll work our way through in the coming months. But this is just to initiate the process for setting up the new committee.
Okay, thank you, Director. Councillors, would someone like to remove the recommendation as put forward by the officers? Move Councillor Murray, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lykos. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Lykos, no. Any other councillor like to speak on this issue? If not, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Page 157, 9.14, Tourism, Arts and Culture Advisory Group minutes of the meetings held in July, August and September 2020. Director Tingay, would you like to speak? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Attached to the agenda are the minutes of the Tourism, Arts and Culture Advisory Group for meetings held to date in this year, 2020, that being on Thursday, the 6th of February and Thursday, the 25th of June, 2020. And the recommendation is before Council tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, does someone like to move that this recommendation be received? Moved Councillor Dickinson, seconded by Councillor Horrigan. Councillor Dixon, would you like to speak on this issue? No, thank you. Councillor Horrigan, no, thank you. Any other councillor like to speak? If not, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Right. Page 173. 9.15, adoption of the terms of reference for the Greening Euroa Project Steering Committee. Director Ralph, would you like to speak on this issue, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is an exciting project where we've have a partnership between Golden Valley Water, State Government, Council, local schools, recreation reserves to develop a program where we can use reuse water for our green spaces within the town. The Steering Committee's immediate priority is to award a contract for design and costing of the project, which will then need us to go and follow up and try and obtain the capital funds to build it. So the committee is representative of those groups that I mentioned and has been working on the specification for the design, which is ready to go, but we'll leave that advertising of that until after the new year because of Christmas and so on. But this is just to formalise the terms of reference for the committee, and hopefully we'll be seeing green spaces in a couple of years.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, there's a recommendation on page 173. Would someone like to move that? Move Councillor Hayes-Burke, seconded Councillor Murray. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak on this issue?
I'd just like to share in Director Roth's excitement that it's a great initiative that was that got off the ground thanks to the community, and which sets up the infrastructure, as you know, to bring second grade water to our sporting facilities and schools. And I think that there's just so much scope in this project to keep Euroa green and inviting all year round. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murray, any other councillor like to speak on this? If not, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Page 182, 9.16, endorsement of the Strathbogie Shire Council Annual Report 2019-2020. CEO, would you like to speak on this? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The annual report for 2019-2020 is a requirement under sections 131 of the Local Government Act 1989. This report is typically due within 3 months of the end of the financial year, but due to COVID-19, the Minister for Local Government has extended this to the 30th of November. So before you tonight is the annual report that has been provided to the local government, Minister for Local Government, and provides a comprehensive account of council's performance over the past 12-month period. And it really just details key achievements and demonstrates council's ongoing commitment to transparency, accountability and good governance. It also provides the detailed account of its financial and operational performance for the past 12 months as well. So it is before you for endorsement. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Councillors, we have a recommendation before us on page 182. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Horrigan, Councillor Murray. Councillor Horrigan, would you like to speak on the issue?
I would just like to thank the previous councillors and Mayor. I think this is a really nice report, and so thank you, and to obviously the council and all the officers as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murray.
I'd just like to support those comments. This sort of brings to a close a lot of effort by the previous council, and I think it's a worthy reflection of their efforts over a long period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor like to speak? If not, all those in favour, against, declare it carried. Thank you. Page 350, 9.17, 2021 Australia Awards, determination of the Shire-wide award recipients. We do have a conflict. Councillor Horrigan will be leaving the room.
Thanks, Mayor.
I'm sorry, we just have to wait for the doors to close so we continue the meeting. I do apologise for the delay in the meeting. Okay, Director Tingay.
Thank you, Mayor. So Australia Day events are held within the municipality each year by the community planning groups for Avenel, Euroa, Longwood, Nagambie, Strathbogie and Violettown. Our Community Australia Day events are supported by Council through a number of different ways. We assist in advertising and distribution of award nominations, coordination of the nomination for awards by officers, selection of the Shire-wide award recipients by councillors, and a number of other ways. Nominees are called for and local community award recipients are selected by the town's Australia Day Committee. It's Council's role to select the Shire-wide award recipients for each category from the list of community award recipients provided by each committee. So tonight, councillors, this report is before you for the 2021 Shire-wide award recipients and to determine who those will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Due to the naming of people in this report, we have to actually now go into a closed session. So we have to actually close the meeting due to people's names being mentioned. So, motion to close the meeting to the public for consideration of the Australia Day nominations. 1. Classify the considerations of appendix to determine Australia Day Awards recipients as being confidential information in accordance with Section 125 of the Local Government Act 2020 and close this section of the meeting to the public under Section 66-2-A of the same Act. 2. Apply the definition under Section 3F of the Local Government Act 2020 relating to personal information being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs, as councils wish to keep the names of the award recipient confidential until they are announced on Australia Day. 3, to move into a camera part of the meeting and cease public broadcast for the duration of this consideration of this item. Would someone like to move that motion, please? Councillor Murray, seconded Deputy Mayor Lycos. So we have now gone into camera.